We are here at Bannon High School in Bannon, South Carolina. This school is very similar to most of the schools where our teachers are located. You will find individuals in your school very similar to the staff members that you are going to meet at Bannon High School. We want you to listen very carefully to the staff members that have agreed to talk with you regarding their responsibilities and the individuals as they make suggestions to you that will be helpful in your adjustment to your school and to the community. While these are teachers from Bannon High School, their responsibilities are very similar to similar staff members in the school where you are located. Listen very carefully to their responsibility and their suggestions. Their suggestions will make it possible for you to be very successful in your schools, in the communities where you are located. The most important people in our school are the students. Today we have 2 students from Bannon High School that will talk with you about their experiences with an international teacher. Each of these students have had an international teacher in their program. We want them to talk with you about what makes a successful teacher and offer suggestions as to what you can do to be a successful teacher in your school. Let's begin. Vanessa, talk with us for a few minutes about what makes a successful teacher.
Some characteristics that make a teacher successful is being understanding and patient with students. Just because everyone learns differently, and they just search for teachers who will be there to lead them the way through the whole year.
Kevin, how do you feel?
I feel like teachers should be able to communicate with their students and understand how they learn, how they gather information, being able to be firm, but have some leeway with things and understanding kids and everything.
Okay, do you want to offer a suggestion to the new teachers that will be coming for the coming school year, based on your experience as having a successful teacher in the past? What suggestions would you make to a new international teacher that would be coming to a school this coming fall?
Make sure you're firm and you're in the rules and instruction, because kids tend to play over teachers. But if you come in, make sure you're firm and you set the rules and everything from the start, so everyone knows how things work, how you are expected to act throughout the year.
Vanessa, do you have some suggestions that you would like to?
Yes, I suggest that they should be more interactive with the students and set expectations that they expect from students.
Can you take just a minute and talk with us about the teacher that you have had?
My Algebra 2 teacher, Mr. Rodriguez, he was an excellent teacher. I did tell him that it would be better, that we learn better if he would talk to us more than just giving us the work. And he did. And we finished the year strong when we took our exam, because he didn't just teach us, but he would talk to us more than regular teachers would.
My physical science teacher, Mr. Tabby, my class was pretty small, so he was pretty interactive with the kids. We were able to do science projects, experiments, and things. So he was very talkative. He taught less as well with presentations. Some of the work could have been a little more challenging for us to do. But from me listening to other classes were a little more loud or more just uncontrolling. So he was a good teacher though. I told him he was a good teacher, and I got a good grade in the class, so it was pretty good.
I want to thank our students from Manning High School. As you go into your classrooms this coming year, I want you to be aware that you're going to have students just like these, students that want you to be fair, students that want you to be prepared every day. You need to take time to get to know them. These two students have had real good experiences with the international teachers here at Manning High School. We want you to have students, once you finish the program with them, that will say, this was a good teacher, I enjoyed my class, and I learned a lot from them. When you go to your school, the principal is going to appoint a mentor teacher for you. The mentor teacher is someone that you can go to for advice, someone that you can go to when things are kind of rough and you just need someone to talk with. Please make sure you take advantage of this opportunity. The mentor teacher will be a collegial individual in the school that will be very beneficial to you as you get to know the school, the community, and opportunities that may be available in your community. Please make sure that you take advantage of these teachers. We have two teachers from Manning High School that are going to talk to you a little bit about their role as a mentor teacher. They're going to make suggestions to you on how you can become a successful teacher in the schools where you're located. We have with us Elizabeth McDonald and Jordan Jeffries. I want you to listen very carefully to the suggestions that they make that will help you be a successful teacher. Talk with us about how an international teacher can be successful in a high school like Manning High School. These teachers are going to be going to high schools very similar to Manning. They're going to be working with students very similar to the students you have here at Manning. Give some suggestions to these teachers on how they can search out an individual on the staff for assistance. Maybe their mentor teacher, it may be another colleague in the school. Feel free to offer suggestions that you have made to international teachers or suggestions that you feel will make these teachers successful in their new assignment. Well, Elizabeth, if you will go first.
My first suggestion would be to seek out who your mentor teacher that's assigned to you, the person that's assigned to you, as well as your department head. Those folks are there to help you out, to help you understand the protocols and the functions of the school system that you're going to be placed in. They can also help you relate to the students, understand the culture of the school, and get acclimated to, your situation and where you are.
Just piggybacking off what Elizabeth said, you want to make sure that you get in tune with your mentoring teacher and also with the department head, because there may be some curricular decisions that are made that may be a little different with where you're coming from. And so you want to make sure that you're in line and that the things that you want to do are in line with the curriculum that's set up in your particular school or district. And also you just want to be flexible and you want to be a good listener and be coachable and teachable into how you can be acclimated to the school climate and how you can adjust to the students.
Most international teachers go through a period of adjustment when they arrive. A lot of international teachers come with a very idealistic view of what American students are like and what American schools are like. Can you offer them any suggestions on how to deal with students that need to be motivated, how to deal with students that may be disruptive in their classes?
I think Just the first thing you have to remember is that in America, school is compulsory, so students have to attend. Here, a lot of students don't necessarily view school as a privilege. So the mindset going into the classroom that the students will sit there quietly and just, take in all the information that you're giving them without any, kind of feedback is one that would definitely lead you into a bad situation in your classroom with classroom management. Our students are used to structure. They're used to interactive classrooms. They do not respond well to sit and get, where the teacher is doing all the instruction and the students are supposed to sit there quietly and simply respond. As a teacher, you want to come in with strong classroom management skills, knowing that you will have problems that arise in your classroom. You want to know that you need to be firm. You need to have a set system in place for what you're going to do when students misbehave, because it will happen in your classrooms. And you have to know that even though being a part of a cultural experience and having an international teacher is beneficial to our students, a lot of our students in areas of poverty, which is where a lot of our international teachers are placed, those students struggle academically already. And so having to then struggle to learn content on top of struggling to maybe understand an accent, that could be something that is going to promote those, what do you call them? The avoidance behaviors. And so you'll see those really present in your classroom. So having a strong classroom management plan, seeking other teachers who you know at your school have strong classroom management skills, that'll definitely be a strong tool for you.
Could you take a minute and talk a little bit about how an international teacher should introduce themselves to their parents and to the community?
Just being present. When we have our different school events, we have our different parent nights, SAT nights, things like that. You want to be present so the community can get to know you, because you're coming into a new community. And when you come into a new community, I know it's scary, but you have to know that, again, we, the mentor teachers, the other people on the staff, we're here to help you, and we're here to provide that sense of family and community for you. So we'll assist you in whatever way you need. But you want to come in and you want to be positive. You want to be warm, and you might have to let some of the fences down of what maybe you have preconceived notions about Americans or wherever. You might want to let those fences down so that you can absorb the community and absorb the people. And so we'll get to know you and they'll get to know you vice versa. And so there won't be that intimidation wall up. You want to be involved on any school activity boards or anything that you can get involved in so that you can get your footprint into the school. And even with the students, if there's different clubs that maybe you can sponsor or co-sponsor, maybe where you're working with another teacher on staff, that's another way for the community, the parents, to get to know you and for you to be more involved in the school community.
Could you offer maybe one or two more suggestions to the teachers as they come in and adjust to the school that you have not already mentioned?
One would be, and you hit some of the points, but one would be to establish those instructional routines and non-instructional routines. As Elizabeth said, our students are used to a systematic way of instruction, and it's not always lecture. Lecture, it works for some students, but when you have students who are not as self-motivated, and those students who don't have intrinsic learning values, then it's going to be difficult if you come in just lecture. So you want to have hands-on activities, interactive activities, scavenger hunts, things that would grab their attention. And then, like I said about those instructional routines, having a routine in place every day, and you're hammering that, and it's getting ingrained in the students that when we come in, we're starting our bell work assignment. We're coming in, we're getting straight to this assignment, or we're getting our materials for this. You want to have those routines in place, and you want to make sure it's regular. Same thing with like checking IDs. She didn't share it, but she has an excellent system for checking IDs. She stands at the door every day, and she makes them show them their ID to her, and she takes attendance that way right there at the door. And the students know that's one of her instructional routines. They know they can't get in the room without the ID, So she's providing the ID check and she's taking attendance at the same time. And they know that they expect that when they go to Miss McDonald's class. And so you want to have those routines established to where they know this is what I'm supposed to do as a student and this is what the teacher's demanding of me as a student. And that way, it's a level playing field.
If you want to suggest another special activity like that you have used and it's been very successful, or a teaching strategy that you have used that you would like to recommend to international teachers?
I think as far as, an instructional strategy or a teaching strategy, I think before you even dive into that, I think it's really important for them to take the time to get to learn our state standards and know exactly what students are supposed to teach. And not what they're supposed to teach, but what they're supposed to learn. Oftentimes, we've seen where students feel as though things have been watered down for them. And so you want to make sure you set those high expectations and that you are, raising the bar for them to meet those expectations. And I think just involving any kind of literacy strategies in your classroom where students are reading is something that'll be very beneficial in and of itself. You don't necessarily want to compel every student to read aloud, but, utilize small group reading sessions, utilize reading strategies while they're reading to where they're digging and diving into the text. And that goes for math, science classrooms, across the curriculum. Getting students engaged is really what you want to see taking place in your classroom as much as possible.
Any additional recommendations or suggestions?
Just be open and just be ready to jump in the community and get to work.
Media Center is a really crucial component to the program in a school. Historically, the Media Center was called the library, and in your country, the Media Center may still be called the library. Over the last couple of years, the role of the Media Center specialist in our country has expanded from just the keeper of the books to the manager of the technology. We are very fortunate to have very good media specialists in our schools where we have international teachers. We want you to meet a media specialist. She is going to talk with you about her role here at Manning High School. Her role is very similar to the media specialist that you will find in your school. I want you to listen very carefully to what she talks to you about regarding her role and how she can be helpful to you as an international teacher. She is going to make some suggestions to you. Listen carefully to them, and you will be able to use the facilities in your school to assist you in the lesson planning. Ms. Tolson is the media specialist here at Manning High School. She's going to begin by talking to you a little bit about her role, and then she is going to make some suggestions about how you can be successful in your school.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Trolson, and I am the librarian at the Media Center at Manning High School. This career is a little bit new for me. I've been here I think 3 years now, and it is just a joyful place to be. The library is the hub of Manning High School. It's in the center of the building. Students come and go. In the morning, we'll have 60 kids come in before breakfast just to socialize and finish work. At lunch, we'll get over 80 or 90 kids in here to socialize, read, finish work, be with their classmates. And I understand that's a little bit different than some schools where they don't have an open lunch, but it's been very successful here, and it helps us build relationships with the students as well. As far as teachers go, the library is the place that they right now get their ID. So students and teachers will get their official IDs here. IDs have to be worn at all times by students, so you make sure that they come in here to get that. We're also a wonderful reference for, we have the laminating machine, we have the die cutter machine, we have the long poster paper. So when you first come and you need supplies, come to the library because we have lots of supplies that we can share, or we can get those for you and get you shaped up in the right place. If you go to the office and they're really busy with parents, that might not be the best place, and we're much more helpful here with that kind of thing. Let's see. As far as reading, of course, the library is focused on improving literacy, and I've worked really hard in this library because we're a very rural African American community. I've worked very hard on getting books of different genres with characters that our students can relate to. Our readership went up 77% this year by the things that I've bought and the way we've displayed them. So I'm very pleased with that. And also the environment has been changed where it's not so industrial and sterile. It's more like a college coffee house where we have some comfortable seating, we have high top tables, we have some collaborative areas. We welcome students and classes to come in. When a whole class comes in, we ask them to sign up with me ahead of time so I know that you're just going to use the facility or if you would like to collaborate on a project. We are also working on Makerspace, which is a STEM activity. Makerspaces are new in the last few years, so libraries aren't just a place to read. With this big collaborative area, we do things like connects, which are building materials, and I can get an entire class in here making roller coasters, doing real life bridges where they're building hands-on. So that's taking in the science, physics, and math departments. We've also done programming with Spheros, which are tiny round robots. So I work with, again, the science and math usually for that. And we'll teach them the basic coding. Then they will design their own obstacle courses, and they will program and challenge their friends to make the robots go in their obstacle course, which was very new this year and a big success. And we're really looking forward to expanding that next year. And that's open to any of the teachers that want to work with me on that. We also have something called Breakout EDU, which is like, it's an entertainment it's called an escape room in the real world. And you go with friends and you get locked in a room and you try to escape. So the education version is we have a box, you get clues on whatever topic you're reading or whatever subject you're on. The two teachers work together and have all these clues, and then your teams try to break out within the 45 minutes. So they're very high energy, student engaged activities that we really are trying to promote. We also do a lot of goose chases, which are online scavenger hunts. And we have iPads, and I work with teachers to come up with activities that the kids can do, and then they can travel to school and work in the library to do real hands-on type activities. And what's good about this for all our students is it works on the 21st century skills, where you're communicating, you're problem solving, you're collaborating, you're using critical thinking skills. You're not working in isolation. When you go to the job, you're not going to work in isolation. You're going to work with a team, and you need to get along with that team. And these are all skills that maybe aren't the focus of the lesson, but all come from that lesson. As a media specialist, I am a teacher first. I've been teaching for 25 years in the classroom. I got another master's degree to teach in the library. So I prefer to be the teacher first and the librarian second, which means when you have me to collaborate with, you have two teachers. So I have strengths and weaknesses, and you have strengths and weaknesses. And together, we can really work well together to provide everything that all our students need. We can challenge our high students. We can support our lower students. We can get the students that are just like not into what they're doing, and we can pull different ways to engage them. It's always better to have more than one teacher to work off of, I think. And as far as being from another country, it is a gift for you to be here and share your culture with us and for us to share with you. I would support that you make relationships with the staff, build those relationships with the students, the staff, and the community, and try to be involved. Share your culture with us as well, because we are interested in that too. As educators, we're lifelong learners, and we want to be part of that. My suggestion is to smile a lot, be flexible. It's going to be different. The thing I've noticed, the biggest difference is classroom management. Is often difficult for incoming teachers because it's a different culture. A lot of times it's more, the students will listen to you, and sometimes here you're going to have to put a little more work into that. So there's a lot of resources you can do, and I'm happy to come into a classroom and work, or have you guys come in here. But it's going to be an experience you'll never forget, and it's going to build you as a teacher and a person, and what you share with your students and your faculty will change them as well.
We are with the assistant principal at Manning High School. She has a key responsibility at the school here. We want you to listen very carefully to her role and the role of assistant principals. You will have an assistant principal in your school. There may be more than one assistant principal in your school, and Ms. Bench will talk with you about the role that she has and the role of assistant principals in the school. She's going to offer you suggestions that will be very helpful to you in terms of classroom management, in locating in your school community, and any suggestions that she might want to make that will help you be a successful teacher. Ms. Bench, talk with us about your role.
My name is Susan Bench. I'm assistant principal here at Manning High School. I've been here for 8 years as an assistant principal, so this is something I have some experience in. I am in charge of curriculum and instruction and testing. We have another assistant principal that handles discipline. I handle some, but she's responsible more for the discipline, the textbooks, and the running of the school in terms of the building maintenance and things. I'm the one that helps prepare teachers for the classroom. So I like to spend days ahead before school starts working with our new teachers and our international teachers on how to prepare and be ready for the first day of school. If you want to have a successful school year, how you start your first day off is very important in the impression that you make with your students. I give teachers tips on what they need to do in terms of getting prepared, knowing your classroom procedures, during every day, having that planned out and teaching your students everything that you expect from them on that first day. And being prepared, there's no way you can over prepare for being ready for a lesson and for your classroom. But teachers that are prepared from bell to bell, in other words, their lessons will last the entire time, that there is activities that go on. You don't do the same thing for 90 minutes. We have a block schedule, so our classes last for 90 minutes. You want to break up that 90 minutes into various activities for students so that they're not doing the same thing for 90 minutes. But being very prepared and knowing what you're doing, and the students know what you're doing, is going to be very, very beneficial to you managing your classroom. Having school rules, knowing the school rules, those things that the school has in place and is very important, and also knowing what your rules are within your classroom. You want to keep it simple. You want to make the rules you don't want to have extensive rules for the students to follow. You want simple rules, things that they're going to be reminded of and that you are going to enforce every day. Be fair with your students. Be consistent with your students. Don't let one student get away with doing something and then punish another student for the same infraction in the same day. Students will get very upset, and they do not understand when teachers aren't being fair. So make sure you're consistent with your students. Be aware of the language. There's a lot of language that students use that may be slang, things that you're not sure if it's proper language. Ask us if you're not sure if something the student is saying is improper. We don't want our students saying things, but sometimes if they think they can get away with it, they'll try that. So, be very open about talking to your administrators if you're having issues or even if you have questions. Your department heads are there also as a support. Our school is broken up into departments, so you would talk to your department head first for matters of curriculum, any ideas on particular standards you have in a class, but certainly you can seek out my help too, because I'm the one that will come in and oversee lesson plans and things as they're turned in. We want to give our students the best opportunity to learn. We want them to produce and perform. You being fair and consistent and being confident is huge. You being confident in your plan and what you're doing in your classroom goes a long way with students. They understand a confident teacher that they're there to work. So, I always tell teachers never play a game on the first day of school. It may be something fun, but you don't want students walking in thinking it's a game on the first day and you've established that in your classroom. You want it to be all business. Those things where you can have fun with your students come later when you've established that serious atmosphere and professional atmosphere with your kids.
One thing that we have found as we talk with administrators that have international teachers is that international teachers need more information about what happens on that first day of school.
Yes.
And a lot of teachers need some additional help and recommendation for that very first day. Sometimes they go into the school, the textbooks are not available. Mm-hmm. What kind of recommendations can you make to a teacher that has just arrived, been here for about a month, and they are on their very first day of school with the students?
Right. We actually produce school-wide a lesson plan for all teachers on the first day. So we kind of outline for teachers what they should be doing period by period. It gives teachers a good start, but when you're on your own, when you start your own class, what I tell teachers, especially new teachers, is that you need to teach your expectations and your rules on that first day of school. You need to spend a good amount of time doing that. I would quiz students on it, have little activities where they have to remember what you have taught them. It's very important for them to understand your procedures. That is one of the most important things a teacher can do. Teach your kids your expectations and your procedures so they understand what's going on. If you come to school, you want to get with your department head, you want to talk to them and ask them questions about how do you start your first day of school, just to get some input. But ultimately, it is your classroom, and you have to remember that it is your classroom. Students in there are to listen to you, and they are to do what you ask them to do. So this is something that's very important. That's having that confidence that you know that this is your space and that they are to, be respectful of that. But that first day of school, letting students know what you expect from them, spending a lot of time training them on your expectations. It may seem like that's something you would do with younger students, but you do it also with high school students. They will be more aware of what they should do and how, your expectations. And you might want to model it with students. If you tell students they can't, ask a question until they raise their hand, if that's one of your expectations, model it. Have them practice it that day. If students have to ask permission before they get up and sharpen a pencil, model it. Have a student demonstrate that for you. So, those things are very important before you actually get into your content and what you're teaching. Also, you want to have a course syllabus that's going to have your expectations and things and what you're planning on covering that year. Give that to the students on the first day of school. Your department may have one, your school may have one. But in that, I would always suggest that you have it signed, that students take it home and they sign it and their parents sign it and they bring it back so that you have a copy of those expectations, and you know their parents have already read that. So it's an important thing to do. When you're teaching students and you're trying to get students to understand that the grades are important in your classroom, one thing that I tell teachers is you allow students chances for small successes. Give a short quiz, give things kids can do that's going to, I guess, promote them having some confidence in your classroom and that they can do the work. And then as they have these little successes, you can create harder successes for them, things that you're going to expect them to do on a regular basis, more challenging work. But always give students those opportunities to be successful in your classroom.
Probably the most frequent problems that international teachers have is students that come into class and they're talking with their classmates. Mm-hmm. Can you make any recommendations on how an international teacher or even an American teacher right. can deal with the disruptions that occur? Right.
And that comes from expectations in the classroom. One of my rules when I was a teacher, I taught for quite a few years. This is my 26th year in education. So one of my rules in the classroom was that when the teacher's talking or if someone has been recognized to speak, the class is not allowed to talk. At other times, it's appropriate for them to talk or to have chatter, right. but when it's teaching time, it is not appropriate. So that's part of teaching your procedures and reinforcing those procedures, because sometimes you're going to have a student's going to have a negative consequence for not following what you've asked them to do. So you need to know ahead of time, students need to know ahead of time what those negative consequences are. Teachers should always have something they can do within their own classroom, things that are negative, that's going to get the point across to the student that they are going to do what you ask them to do. The school, to me, the more things you handle in your class, the better in terms of discipline. But, know your school's procedures so that at some point, if the student has to have a higher level of punishment, that you understand what school's procedures are for that. Each school's different, so they have their own discipline system, so be aware of that. Ask questions, come talk to your administrators that are in charge, ask them for assistance. You may also, don't ever forget that your guidance counselors in your school can be a big part of helping you with your students with behavior. They can also make phone calls home if you don't have time, and they're another layer of help in a school to try to make sure your students are doing what they're being asked to do.
It's important that you get to know the assistant principal as soon as you arrive in the school, and don't hesitate to go to that individual for help. The longer you wait to seek assistance, the more difficult it will be for you to solve the problems that you may be encountering. Our assistant principals in all of our schools where you are going to be located are very helpful, and they are very supportive of international teachers. You have heard one assistant principal here at Manning who has worked with assistant principals, and she is very committed to her teachers here being successful. You will find that same kind of professional commitment from the assistant principals in the schools where you will be located. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Each of the schools where you are located will have a school principal in addition to other staff members in the school that you have heard from today. We want you to get to know your school principal. He will be a valuable asset to your adjustment to the school. Most of the principals in our schools have a lot of training in terms of classroom management, lesson planning, and how to deal with parents. Take advantage of their experience as you get to know the school and the school community. The principal at Manning High School is Mr. Threed. He has been a supporter of the international teachers that we have had at Manning High School. He is very familiar with some of the challenges that international teachers face as they come into a new school. I want you to listen carefully to Mr. Three as he describes the responsibility of a principal, as he describes how a principal can be of assistance to an international teacher. And listen very carefully to any of the suggestions that he would like to make to you that will make your stay in your school very successful.
Great. Thank you. Again, my name is Preston Three. I'm the principal. I've served as a principal for over 24 years at various schools on the high school level, ranging as large as 1,800 students, to the elementary and middle school level, with schools as small as 600 students. So I will give you quick perspectives from both small high schools and larger high schools. First of all, very simple. Learn your principal. If the person happens to be a doctor by chance, address them by their title. With myself, I refer to, as you just heard, Mr. Three. But again, the title, again, in our country itself is very important, and be sure and respect that to begin with. Now, in working at a small high school, and many of you over my career, most have worked at smaller schools. With a smaller school, there are not as many levels of protocol or, again, levels to go through in order to reach or to talk or communicate with your principal. In a larger school, a major difference. You're going to have to go through an administrative assistant, or commonly called secretary. You may have to go through an assistant principal for certain assistance in dealing with maybe textbooks or dealing with repair work in your classroom or technology needs. So in a smaller school, again, not as many levels to go through as far as to communicate with your principal. You may be able to do it by email. He or she may be comfortable with your leaving voice messages. But in the larger school, know that certain assistants will have, again, areas designated to them. Very important.
What would your suggestions be?
As you arrive in your community, there will be on every staff, small or large, veteran teachers. Within your content area, your subject area, or grade level, if you're on the lower grade levels, spend time with those veteran teachers. Very quickly ask them about the norms of that culture, of that community, of that city, of that school. After that, then you want to learn, and again, ask. Don't wait. Again, ask, what are good ways to communicate with the parents, with persons in this school system, in this community? So in the more urban areas, technology is going to be available to parents. They're going to have access maybe to a TV station. But in the rural areas where many of you all will work, there's not a local television station, may not even be a local radio station. They listen to the neighboring counties as far as for information. So getting out information is going to be very important. You're communicating and knowing how to communicate with parents will be very important early on.
Thank you, Mr. Three, for working with our international teachers. And we wish you well as you continue to assist international teachers at your school. In most of our schools, we have a uniform resource officer. I'm going to ask the principal, Mr. Three, to talk with you briefly about the role of the resource officer and introduce the resource officer for Manning.
In the school systems in South Carolina, you're going to have a trained resource officer that is, again, licensed by the state and the county as far as all rights to enforce law enforcement. They're here to, again, provide safety and security. Daily management discipline should be referred to administrators, the assistant principal or the principal. As an instructor or teacher, you should not, again, involve resource officers in daily discipline or management issues. When there's a situation where, again, you are concerned, whether it be safety or discipline that's beyond your control, you are to report directly to, again, an administrator and allow administrators to, again, communicate to the resource officers. This is Captain Graham of our local sheriff's department. that is over all the resource officers in our county. Captain Graham.
How you doing, sir? Mr. Three, I appreciate the invite. Basically, what the role of the resource officer here at Manning High School and the different districts in our area is to, first of all, maintain the safety and security of the school. Secondly, act as a counselor if any of the faculty, the teachers, the principals, students have any kind of questions or any kind of direction they need in local laws and things, needing a better understanding. Our SROs are equipped to give them counsel and tell them what they should and shouldn't do and point them in the right direction. And lastly and thirdly, mainly we teach law-related classes. Our SROs get yearly training in any kind of classes that they can teach in with the cooperation of the principal and the teacher and permission of those teachers. They come into the class maybe 10, 15, 20, however much time designated they can teach simple law-related classes to try to expose the faculty, the teachers, and the students to our local laws.
Today, you have heard from a number of the staff at Manning High School. They have shared with you some tips, some recommendations, some expectations that you should be aware of as you start out on your educational journey in the schools in the state of South Carolina. You have heard from a principal, an assistant principal, a media specialist, a resource officer. You have heard from students. You have heard from mentor teachers. And so therefore, you now are equipped with some information that will assist you as you return and report to your schools. Get to know the staff in your schools and how they can assist you in making your state more productive and more beneficial for the students that you serve. Thank you.